Today's show, we're going to be covering Express Entry Draw number 221, investments in the skilled trades sector, federal skilled trades programs, and disability support for immigrants. Express Entry is an online immigration system for skilled workers, which includes the Provincial Nominee Program, or PNP. Applicants are ranked using a points-based system and placed in a pool. Currently, applicants are only being selected from the Provincial Nominee Program, and draws take place every 2 weeks. The latest Express Entry draw took place on April 27, 2022. The total number of applicants in the pool was 204,000 people. The draw selected 829 candidates, with the lowest scoring candidate having 772 points.
Skilled tradespeople are constantly in demand. These are well-paying positions, and we are always needing more of them. It is projected that 700,000 people in the skilled trade sector will be set to retire between the years of 2019 and 2028. The Government of Canada is investing $7 million into the Union Training and Innovation Program. The goal is to create better training and equipment across Canada in all trade sectors. The government has also included investments in Budget 2022 to encourage the hiring of underrepresented peoples for apprentices, and that includes women, people with disabilities, and immigrants. This news comes at a time when several express entry streams that were paused will be resumed in the summer, and one of these includes the Federal Skilled Trades Program. So, trades jobs are things like engineering, technicians, mechanics, plumbers, even hairdressers are considered in the field of tradespeople, basically. Mm-hmm. So, Adrian, what do you think about this very huge need for skilled tradespeople?
Well, I think that it signifies a pretty big shift in the workforce that we have in Canada, because from when I went to school, when I went to high school, I remember the trends that we were seeing was that there was a lot of need for folks who had bachelor's degrees, graduate degrees, etc. And now we're seeing a really big shift in the workforce where a lot of folks really need to be in the skilled trades programs. And in a lot of those programs, you don't necessarily need a bachelor's degree to get into, which I think is interesting.
That's right. I think there's definitely a need for more practical skills right now. And like we've mentioned, they're very well paying. So they're a great option for people who maybe didn't complete that bachelor's degree or didn't have the money or, whatever the case may be.
Right. It kind of makes working a little bit more accessible for folks.
We're going to be discussing in a little bit more detail the Federal Skilled Trades Program. Who is this program for? It is for you if you are a skilled tradesperson and want to come to Canada through permanent residency. So why choose this program? This stream is through Express Entry and it is going to be reopened very soon. And jobs in the trade section are very highly in demand in Canada right now. It's also a good option if you don't have higher education because it is not a requirement for this program. This program has made up a very small percentage of express entry invitations in the past, and that is not because there are not a lot of invitations being issued by the government, rather it's because there are just not a lot of applicants, which means the competition is lower. That also means it would be a good option for you to consider if you are a skilled tradesperson. What trades qualify? Well, the following trades qualify for this program: industrial, electrical, and construction trades, maintenance and equipment operation trades, supervisors and technical jobs in natural resources and agriculture, processing, manufacturing, and utility supervisors and central control operators, chefs and cooks, and bakers and butchers. Are you eligible? These are the following requirements you need to meet in order to be considered for this program. You need to meet the required language levels, and that includes reading, writing, listening, and speaking. You must have 2 years of experience in your trade within the last 5 years before you apply. You must meet the requirements set out in the National Occupational Classification, except for needing a certificate of qualification. Have a job offer of full-time employment for at least a year, or a certificate of qualification in your skilled trade issued by a Canadian province or the federal government. And finally, you need to get assessed by the province that you are planning on staying in. Each province assesses differently, and it does depend on the trade that you are in. And important to note, if you are going to live in Quebec, this program is not for you because they have a separate program. Also important to note, there is no educational requirement. However, it can make you higher ranked in the pool of candidates if you do have higher education. If you don't have a job offer, you also must provide proof of funds. If you want to apply, you also must make an express entry online profile and submit the standard documents when applying for permanent residency, such as medical certificates and police certificates. If you want to become a permanent resident of Canada and you work in a specific trade, consider this as an option for you and pay close attention to the news as we watch for this stream of express entry to reopen soon.
As of March 16, 2022, the Government of Canada has made it easier for immigrants with disabilities to enter the country. The changes to policies include tripling the cost threshold for medical inadmissibility in Canada, as well as changing the definition of social services by removing special education, social, and vocational rehab. Services and personal support services are now included in this definition. This news comes as a relief to many folks who are thinking of making Canada home. The Canadian society is becoming more inclusive and welcoming to folks who are differently abled. Next, we're going to be looking at 2 examples of provincial governmental support for immigrants with disabilities. For immigrants who are looking to make Ontario their new home, there are programs for you. Based on the information provided by settlement.org, folks would be able to have access to the Assistive Devices Program, or the ADP. As a quick aside, an assistive device is defined as a tool, product, or type of equipment that can help folks with disabilities carry on their daily lives. Such products can include wheelchairs, canes, and walkers. To qualify for the program, you must be a resident of Ontario, have an OHIP card, which OHIP stands for the Ontario Health Insurance Plan card, and have a disability that requires equipment or supplies for at least 6 months or longer. The ADP will cover approximately 75% of the cost of your assistive devices. Next, we're going to be taking a look at the province of Quebec. The Assistive Devices Program is specifically reserved for residents of Quebec who have been experiencing physical or intellectual disabilities for more than 6 months. Persons with temporary handicaps are not eligible for this program. These programs would allow folks access to any devices that would make their lives easier.
So, Adrian, your segment got me thinking about accessibility and about how we've come pretty far, and I think Canada as a country is kind of at the forefront with that, but there's still a long ways to go. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that, yes. Both of us are originally from Ontario, and both of us went to Ontario-based universities, and I'm sure from both of our experiences, we can say that there are ways in which our campuses could have been more accessible, especially for folks using mobility devices. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, it's not something that people who don't have accessibility issues think about often until they're forced to. If you have an injury or, women who are pregnant sometimes, like I was very pregnant during the pandemic, and I had this experience where all the indoor seating had been closed off in the mall, and I was Christmas shopping for my husband, and I had this really heavy gift, and there was just nowhere to sit. So I just sat on the floor because there was nothing else to do. And even sitting on the floor, not everybody can do that. If you've got a walker or, a broken foot, you can't do that. So it's very important, especially during a time like the pandemic.
Right, for sure. Yeah, it's so difficult in those situations because obviously we want to keep public spaces safe and keep folks physical distancing, but we also want to keep public spaces accessible, right? And sitting in malls isn't necessarily just because you want to sit. It's also for folks who genuinely need to sit down, because they're carrying heavy things or they aren't able to walk for long distances. I think right, and I think that COVID and the pandemic has gotten everyone to think on that playing field and really consider what accessibility means and how also that might impact folks who are immigrating to Canada, and how a person who's differently abled might come to Canada and have a little bit of a different experience than someone who is able-bodied, right? That's all for today. Thank you for joining us this week. Click the bell icon and be sure to subscribe to myconsultant.ca. For more information about the content that we talked about, please visit myconsultant.ca, where you can connect to an authorized citizenship and immigration consultant. I'm Adrienne Quijano.
And I'm Sarah Ostapchuk.
And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.